The city breathed differently at midnight. The chaos of the day had melted into a soft hum, the distant murmur of cars, the buzz of streetlights, the whisper of rain brushing against rooftops. Everything seemed slower, softer, more honest under the silver glow of the moon. Liam walked alone through the slick pavement, his shoes splashing through puddles that mirrored the city's trembling lights. His hoodie clung to his shoulders, soaked from a drizzle that refused to fade. He had just finished another late shift at the design studio, another night of building digital worlds for people who never saw the beauty in the real one. His eyes were tired, his thoughts heavier than the rain. The world around him was alive yet empty, like his own reflection in a window he never wanted to look into. As he passed a quiet coffee shop tucked between two old brick buildings, he noticed the glow of warm light spilling onto the street. The sign above the door flickered, "Moonlight Brew," half the letters dying, half holding on, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Inside, a girl sat by the window with headphones on, a cup of coffee steaming before her, her gaze lost in the rhythm of raindrops sliding down the glass. She was beautiful in the way silence is beautiful, subtle, unforced, haunting. There was something about her that stilled the noise inside him. For a moment, their eyes met through the glass, a fleeting second that stretched like eternity. She didn't look away. Neither did he. Something shifted, quiet but certain, the kind of pull that doesn't ask for logic. Liam's feet moved before his mind could stop them. He pushed open the door, the small bell chiming, and the warmth of the cafe wrapped around him like an old memory waiting to be relived. The cafe smelled like roasted beans and rain-soaked wood. A soft tune drifted from a vintage radio, something slow, melancholic, and timeless. Liam stood for a moment, unsure whether to speak or retreat. He ordered a cappuccino he didn't really want, using it as an excuse to stay close. Elena, he saw her name scribbled in faded ink on the camera strap resting beside her cup, had an aura that made time hesitate. Her hair fell loosely over her shoulder, strands illuminated by the warm cafe light. When she finally looked up, her eyes held stories, not loud or tragic, but quiet ones that lingered. He approached, heart pounding like the rain outside.
It's a nice
"Mind
change
if
of
I
pace.
sit?" he asked,
I guess
his
I
tone
prefer
somewhere
the
between confidence
rain.
and vulnerability. She smiled, small but
Yeah.
real. "Only if you're not afraid of silence," she replied, removing one earbud.
I
That
try
simple
to find
exchange was the
beauty
start of
in the
everything.
forgotten.
They talked, cautiously at first,
The
then with growing
overlooked.
warmth.
That's
She told
so
him she was a
funny.
I know,
photographer
right,
who
yeah,
captured
right.
moments the world forgot. Empty benches, flickering signs, faces lost in thought. He admitted he designed buildings that people walked through without ever noticing, art hidden in function. They laughed about it, two creators making beauty no one saw. As the hours unfolded, the rain became their soundtrack,
What about the
filling
quiet
the
moments,
quiet between
Eileen?
sentences. The clock ticked
I find
past
myself
one,
thinking
but
about
neither
it
cared.
often.
Liam noticed how she stirred her coffee absent-mindedly when she
It's
thought,
like the
how her
moon
lips
is
curved
always
upward when she
there.
talked about the moon. Elena,
Even when
in
you
turn,
can't see
saw
it.
the gentleness behind his restless eyes. A man who built walls for a living but longed to be understood. When the cafe lights dimmed for closing, neither wanted to leave. And as they stood in the doorway, the rain reflecting gold around them, Liam thought, sometime. The next night, Liam found himself walking the same path, same drizzle, same glow, same restless pull. He told himself it was coincidence, but deep down, he knew better. Elena was there again, camera in hand, capturing reflections of streetlights in puddles. She smiled when she saw him, and the air between them changed, familiar, alive. They decided to walk together after her shoot. The city felt different when shared. Every droplet, every sound carried meaning. They walked through narrow lanes, past shuttered bookstores, over bridges where the water shimmered like glass. "You ever think rain makes the world honest?" she asked, glancing at him. "It washes away the noise." He nodded. "Maybe that's why people find love in the rain, everything else fades." They reached the old bridge overlooking the river, its iron railings cold beneath their hands. The skyline shimmered, and their reflections danced on the dark surface below. Elena turned toward him, her expression unreadable. "You ever feel like time forgets to move when you're with someone?" she whispered. Liam looked at her, really looked. The wind brushed her hair against his cheek. "I feel it right now," he said. For a long moment, They stood there, two souls wrapped in the music of the midnight rain. Then, without thought, she rested her head against his shoulder, and the city disappeared. The rain softened, the air filled with the scent of wet earth and light. The quiet hum of the river below mixed with their steady breathing. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath for them, waiting, watching, blessing something pure. It wasn't love yet, not the kind you name, but it was something more sacred, the quiet beginning of belonging, the unspoken promise that two lonely hearts had finally found the same rhythm in the rain. Days became nights, nights blurred into dawns. Their lives began to orbit around the same hour, the midnight they once wandered alone. Liam started sketching buildings inspired by her, soft, curved, filled with light. Elena's photographs began capturing warmth instead of solitude. Their connection grew not through grand gestures but through presence, sitting in silence, sharing laughter, watching raindrops trace invisible lines between them. But unspoken emotions have a way of demanding voice. One stormy night, Elena waited by the riverside where they first stood. Lightning stitched the sky, and thunder rolled like an echo of her heartbeat. When Liam arrived, drenched and breathless, she met his gaze and said, "I don't want this to end when the rain stops." He took a step closer, water dripping from his hair. "Then let's make sure it doesn't." She smiled, trembling, uncertain, but brave. The rain fell harder, wrapping them in its music. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too," he replied. "But I'd rather risk this than go back to being half alive." When their lips met, it wasn't the kind of kiss made for movies, it was slow, raw, real. The rain kissed them too, soft and endless. In that moment, they weren't just two strangers who found each other in the night, they were two lives rewriting their own stories, one heartbeat at a time. Around them, the thunder quieted, the river whispered, and the world seemed to breathe again. The city lights blurred into a soft glow, wrapping them in gold and silver hues. She felt his hand against her face, steady and warm, grounding her in the chaos. For the first time in years, she didn't feel lost. The rain didn't just fall, it blessed them. It became their rhythm, their heartbeat, their confession written in drops of light. And when they finally pulled apart, both were smiling, because sometimes love begins not in words, but in the silence that follows them. The dawn that followed was quiet, gentle, the kind of morning that feels like forgiveness. They sat on the bridge, fingers intertwined, shoes soaked, hearts wide open. The city was waking up again, but they didn't move. The world they'd built between raindrops felt too precious to break. Over the next weeks, life unfolded differently. Liam's designs grew softer, human, alive, filled with color and hope. Elena's photographs began to show light where shadows once lived. She captured him one morning laughing, sunlight tangled in his hair, and when she developed the photo, she realized that was love. Not the loud kind that burns, but the quiet one that stays. Seasons changed. The rain returned, as if blessing what they'd built. 1 year later, under the same bridge, Liam waited for her again. She arrived in a yellow raincoat, camera hanging from her neck, eyes shining. "You once said you didn't want it to end when the rain stopped," he whispered, brushing a raindrop from her cheek. "So what now?" she asked softly. He smiled, that same gentle smile from their first night. "Now, we make sure it never does." He pulled her close, and as the rain began to fall harder, they kissed beneath the same sky that had once brought them together. Around them, the city pulsed with life, neon lights, laughter, thunder, but in their world, there was only love. The kind born from midnight, rain, and the courage to stay. And as the raindrops danced around them, they knew their story wasn't a fleeting storm, but a forever rain. Love had found its home, and it would keep falling endlessly, beautifully, eternally. Their laughter mixed with thunder, their silhouettes glowing under lightning flashes, And as the world spun quietly on, they stood unshaken, two souls who had turned a single midnight into forever.